See, what do we share with us today? Sorry, Bev.
Yeah, off you go. Okay, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, marvelous. Well, welcome everyone. Just up front, apologies to the Level Up team. We've heard this before a number of times from me, but I'm going to try and do it in a slightly different sort of scenario, a different way. I think just the examples that the two of you have given so far in terms of your uh, pitch, whatever it is testimony to the fact that you've done a lot of thinking in all these sort of scenarios as well, particularly around value proposition. And I want to just be able to share some additional thoughts on it. So there may be something which is not new, and there may be some things which are new, but at the end of the day, what this really is an opportunity to trigger some thought in yourself. So you need to come into this conversation, and it's not a presentation, it's a conversation. And I'll just have the PowerPoint. You guys can still converse. That's the difference. And I hate PowerPoint, but it's going to be the one anyway, so bear with me. So apologies for that. And one of the things about it is to create curiosity. You know, when we're building a value proposition, you're actually trying to understand what someone else is thinking or what someone else needs. And so in order to get into that sort of space, you need to be curious about your business, your ideas, etc. So just keep them in the back of your mind. We've scheduled an hour and a half for this. I can spend all hour and a half talking about the first 4 slides, and I've got 49 to go through. Okay. But I think, yeah, you saw the 49, I showed it to you. But it's quick, but it's trigger points. And so I want to start off with a key understanding of the word value. So many times we just say value proposition and added value, and we just just throw, I suppose, sometimes loosely around in conversations, for want of a better description. And inevitably, when we're entrepreneurs, we start thinking about what's our revenue going to be and what's the profit going to be and blah, blah, blah. But we never actually understand what the word value is. And so when we talk about value proposition, go and understand that we want to create value. It doesn't have to be rands, it doesn't have to be cents. But value is the overarching principle that we have to take into consideration and drive that. You can add value to others, either directly or indirectly. And it's that core foundational understanding I want you not to forget about as we go through this. So I'm going to have to share my screen, which means that I won't be able to see any hands up or hands down or whatever the story is. So like I said to you earlier, it is a conversation. So please just interject wherever you feel it's necessary, and we can go from there. All right. So just confirming that you can see, what can you see? Can you see my value
Perfect.
proposition slide?
Lovely.
And now that I'm presenting, can you see it being presented?
Yes.
Can you just see the artwork?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see animation now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks, Bev, for being one you want to unmute. So what I want to just say to you, that building value propositions is actually an art form. There is a lot of scenarios around template-driven, canvas-driven, which we will do as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, the word canvas says a lot, doesn't it? You know, we create a recipe of ingredients which we place onto a canvas, which we'll be working on ourselves live at the end of this call. But going from a blank canvas to something beautiful is actually an art form. And some might not like this type of art that you see displayed. Some like realistic, some like some weird other stuff, some like, I don't know, AI generated art. And I've seen there's a lot of Firefly note-taking AIs here, so I hope they don't get offended by me saying that AI doesn't make good art. Anyway, it's really up to us from a real intelligence perspective to build art. And so value proposition is actually an art form. And what's important when you have a look at the customer, within the word customer itself exists those 4 letters of user. So customer is a very powerful sort of analogy around who we're trying to build for. We're trying to build for an existing customer. We're trying to attract future customers. We're also trying to create an opportunity and a realistic understanding that if there's no value, you might lose a customer. But sometimes that is beneficial to your organization as well. So do not think that when you're building a value proposition trying to cater for all, what you actually are doing is you're building for your customer, ideal targeted, existing, and future. But within that, and a lot of the sort of the products and services that you guys provide as well as organizations is that you're also catering for a user of your service, a user of your product, a user of your chicken manure, a user of your bicycles, a user of your employment opportunity. So there's a component of usage, but there's also a component of customer, and obviously customer is a paying user, if you could put it that way. So never ever forget that when you are talking about customer, you're also talking about a person who is using it. And sometimes when you're building a value proposition, the person paying is not the person using. So do not forget that sort of element as well. So you're trying to create a broader sort of thinking around who your effectively your customer / user is. And what you really want to do is you want to build a very, very, very deep understanding around who these individuals, communities, businesses, corporates, individuals are. We need to understand what their needs are, how those needs different to what they want, which differs to what their pain points are. Okay, so in order to truly understand that, we need to have a very clear and concise thought process that says, my customers or users need this, and or they want that, and or they have pain points which need to be resolved. And those are different layers of understanding again, but the point is that it must be deep. Now, in my presentations, you get to know every now and then that they all go on and on and on. I'm just joking, but I talk a lot. But in it, we also need to take a break, a little brain fog release time. And this is what it is. The world's greatest salesperson, Ralph Harrison, the king of salespeople, he understood the customer. He understood what their needs were. He understood what their wants were. He understood their pain points. None of that was relevant as he was a fridge salesman, and he could still sell to the Eskimos in Alaska, so that type of thing. He's the king. Right. The first component around a value proposition is the problem-solution fit. So what we mean by that is saying we need to clearly define, and this is where the homework's going to come into all of you, to clearly define the problem your product or service solves. I'd also like to add in brackets, it clearly defines the opportunity your product or service creates. Okay. And why I'm saying that, because when you read up around value proposition work, and when you go through the detailed canvassing, which you would use now, the main sort of default thinking is about what problems are you trying to solve? What pain points are you trying to alleviate? But never forget the opportunity that you're also trying to create. Sometimes people don't understand that there is something good. So you're not solving a problem, you're not solving a pain point, but you're actually creating something new. So never forget that problem solution fit need not be solving a problem. It could also be creating an opportunity. Secondly, behind that, you must be able to confidently articulate how your solution is unique and how it fits into the market landscape. So Tupelo and Usani, I think that you articulated that quite nicely in what you just talked about just now. So it's a good start in going there. But the real thing is confident articulation around the solution. Sometimes people lose out on funding because they can't explain it properly. Sometimes people don't have anything but tell a great story and get funding, as an example in entrepreneur space. But that's where the important part is. And the value proposition also has to, and it's very important not to underestimate, to say how it fits into the market landscape. So where is your slither of opportunity? Where is your pie, custard, whatever you call the pie graph, the Pac-Man inverted thing, piece of the pie of where you're trying to address the market landscape as well. And be confident in it. That's the sort of scenario. I mean, Albert Einstein said years ago, the formulation of the problem is often more essential than the solution itself. And so what he's really trying to say there is what he did say there was, you really need to understand the problem or the opportunity. You need to formulate that very well, because that is true to the real nuts and bolts of building out your solution at the same time. This was an example of where it didn't work. So this is porcupine on a stick, an early business failure. So obviously the problem was that someone was hungry and they thought, oh, great, I've got a porcupine farm, so I'll just put them on a stick and you can eat it. Not really understanding the different scenarios around the opportunities. So it was there was a problem, but the problem was not well formulated, okay? It was known and understood, but the reality is that, well, it didn't work. Next, understanding who you're competing with. All right. It is necessary, and I highlight that in bold. When I put something in bold, underline it, there's a reason for that. It's not because I like punctuation. As Heather will tell me, my English is not great. So my apologies, Heather, if the grammar is flawed, but the message needs to be highlighted.
I'm coping, Paul. I'm coping. It's okay.
Okay, all right. Everyone, if Heather's coping, then it's all good. When she says she's not coping, I'll have to stop the screen share, edit some English, and then bring it back on again. All right. But that's the team that we are. So it is necessary to know and understand the competition and how their offerings differ. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to go and verbalize it and build to address those things. It's just a question of understanding. It's a question of how would they react in a certain circumstance if you come to market? How do they deal with certain challenges which you identify? How do they see opportunities outside? What do their customers like about them? What are the people who don't like them not like about them? And it's quite important to build it up. And it's when you're building and crafting an overall value proposition, you need to understand that if you're presenting to someone, you're showing your product to someone or getting someone to buy, they may have competitor ideas, concepts, products, services in the back of their mind that you need to be creating a value to them that they will not take them into consideration and buy yours, or address where you're short and highlight where you are stronger. Okay, so understand your competition. When you're doing that, hopefully you'll identify gaps in the market that your value proposition could fill, or it could improve on existing offerings. Okay, so I just want to highlight this message when we build value proposition. We're not all inventors. I know most of you are, but not all of us are inventors. We're also not going to create brand new markets or brand new products, etc., etc. We are in a very competitive world out there. And there may be opportunities that you can plug into, gaps to fill, but there also might be just an opportunity to improve on what else is out there. And you don't know that until you've actually done the detailed analysis around who your competitors are. So that's also something to keep into consideration. And because we like cartoons, here it is. The Vikings arrived and they mean business. Do you all like Gary Larson cartoons? If you don't, well, you're going to be educated now because they are coming. So the reality is that your competition is going to come. They're going to attack you, even though you might be sitting in the fortress and you're comfortable, but they really mean business. Okay, they're coming up with a significant amount of ammunition of legal and compliance and marketing spend and social media ideas and influences and all of that crap that people all this other stuff that people throw at these days. But they mean business, and that's what the competition is going to do. And like this cartoon says, it might not be subtle. That could be in your face, walking down your own garage or own driveway, pathway to your front door, because that's where they want to take it. Now, which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the one worried about them, or do you want to be the Vikings who mean business, approaching to attack the enemy? That's what your value proposition needs to determine. The next thing is about building this unique selling proposition. Okay, not value proposition, selling proposition. So I think that you guys are strong enough and foundational enough to never underestimate the importance of this clear and clarified selling position that makes your product and service stand out, or makes your message stand out, or makes the individual stand out. And I think that's the important part, is that you get some organizations or companies out there that sell absolute rubbish products, but they just have a phenomenal selling proposition and people buy it. I'll use a few examples later. There are also products that are phenomenally awesome, but the messaging is not simple. It's too complex. It tries to appeal to, I don't know, the over-engineering of a digital or a technological product. And people say, oh, how do I switch it on? And you say, well, it's an easy button. Switch it on the button and it cleans your floor for you, versus all those other robot floor mop cleaners and stuff like that. And I'm using that example because my daughter and husband yesterday were telling me about this little robot vacuum cleaner that they got. Have you got that little round thing that cleans the floors? They call it Dolly or Dooley or something. Anyway, I didn't know how to switch the bloody thing on. That's all I wanted to know, but it just got more complicated. So making sure that you understand the importance of a clear, concise, and clarified unique selling proposition. So why is it important? Well, it has a challenge for you, and we'll touch on it later again, but think beyond the features of your products and services that you have today, and focus on the benefits, the value that resonate with the customer. And I think I want to pause there for thought process. Focus on the benefits or the value that resonate with your customer/user. Okay. Sometimes when we run our businesses, we get so passionate about something, and we are passionate about that. But if you can just step back, have a look at it from a different angle, and think about what are the value points that a customer is looking for, and how can you appeal to them, then say it, sell it. It might be boring for you, it might be, oh, but everyone knows that. It might not be for that case. So when you're building these value propositions, again, I invite you to think fundamentally differently from where you are sitting on your chairs or your seats at the moment. Then it's all about the communication of this value proposition. And this is what the exercise that we're doing later will help you. It needs to be easily communicated and clearly understood. You know, there are, if you have a technical product, there's some technicalities that are there as well. There are some complexities in the manufacturing process, for example. There is a whole range of technological developments in the I don't know, the communication of APIs in a banking app, or well, I don't know, whatever the story is. But how do you actually communicate that very easily so people understand what it is? So your challenge should be to refine your message to be, again, concise, clear, and compelling. And I think the exercise that Bev got you to think about in pitching your business, you know that, you know when, is a great messaging tool that you should always do, and we should always be practicing, always refining, talking to the people around you, asking good questions, positioning themselves and learning that. Always, always refining your message. You know, most of you are still young, but when I grew up, among myself in the early 70s and 80s, before you were born, we had a thing called a pencil. I don't know if you guys know what a pencil is. It's not this Apple pencil, okay? It's not the pencil on the iPad, but you used to get like a Staedtler pencil called an HB. And a Staedtler HB pencil had a sharpener. It was lead. Okay, it's a pen. Bad example. I don't even have a pencil on me. Bad example. I don't have a pencil or a sharpener. It was a beautiful instrument to write on. Has Heather got one? You got one there, Heather? Or Bev? Yeah, the Bev's got the sharpener. Okay, you did all your homework. If you had a mistake, you could erase and rub it out, etc., etc. But if you did not sharpen there, see, this is why I love these ladies, gentlemen. This is why I love them. They bring examples of what I'm.
We have the toys. We have the toys.
We have the toys, yeah. But if you did not sharpen your pencil, your homework or your message would be blunt. It wouldn't be concise. It wouldn't be readable. And the sharpening of the pencil was a very, very important part to get right. And so what I'm saying to you, always think about that Staedtler HB pencil that we used to have in primary schools, that if you did not sharpen it, you don't continue look at it, your message would not be refined, would not be concise, would not be clear, would not be compelling. Okay, so always keep that in mind. That's an important part to have a look at. And then, of course, remember what you want to do is when you're building a value proposition, this is not just about the initial upfront sale. Okay, value proposition is a long-term process around building value end to end. It's about, like I've said, extending beyond the initial sale and includes the entire customer experience. And that can be pre-sale, sale, and post-sale. When we have deep conversations and we engage in a lot of different things, you'll hear me talking a lot about how I think that, particularly in the digital space around South Africa at the moment, there's too much vertical problem solving in value chains. So in financial services, people do payments, people do identity. In agriculture, people do fertilization, people do irrigation, people do harvesting, people do packaging, etc. The real value is when you build horizontal solutions across the multiple verticals. How do you get from a chicken laying an egg to a drumstick being consumed at a braai? And that whole value chain is where the issue lies. Now, when you're building a product or a service, you are part of a value chain. You might not have a touch point in every single one of them, but you need to understand that you have an impact in terms of your suppliers, your customers, etc. But your product and your service also has value post the sale. It has value pre the sale because you've got to develop it. It has the sale part, but then there's the post to sell. So when you're building out your value proposition, never, ever, ever forget that there are consequences to decisions made. There are consequences to sales. Some good, some bad. If you make a sale and you provide a service, make sure that you're delivering that promised service to your customers downstream. Because at the end of the day, your consistency of delivery of the promised value is the sustainability of your value proposition. Okay, so value proposition is not a exercise to write something on a piece of paper. A value proposition design is the essence of building sustainable growth and value in your own business and for your customers across the board. I want to go back to building a value proposition as an art form. You can go to Paris. I don't know. Where's a good art gallery? Paris, Cape Town, wherever. The majority of the art on display is old. Yes, there's some modern stuff which is just very confusing. But if you go to the Louvre in France and you see the Mona Lisa, that wasn't painted last week Thursday. It could have been by some fake person, but it doesn't matter. The reality is that the original artwork is hanging on a piece of wall that has created value over a long period of time. And so when you're building your value proposition, you might build something today, sell tomorrow, but it's that its impact is long-term. So never forget about that in terms of the understanding of your value that you bring from the value chain perspective. And then at the same time, you also need to understand in your business that scalability and adaptability is critical, all right? Your value proposition remains as relevant as the business scales and as market dynamics change. This is a fluid thing. Artwork is done with paints that are fluid, watercolors, oils. Watercolors are lighter and more liquidy, and oils are not. Excuse my lack of understanding on art, everyone, but I just picture it this way. The economy changes, the political situation in South Africa changes, the impact of sanctions between the United States and China has an impact on us every day that we don't even realize it. Your customers have different choices. They have an increased GDP per capita. They may lose their job. They don't have security anymore. The competition comes out with something great and exciting and blows your product out of the water. So what I'm saying is that even though you start getting traction, you start growing, you start winning awards, and you're making additional sales, never ever forget that the core essence of your value proposition is dynamic and fluid. You should always be going back to it on a regular basis, testing your previous assumptions, testing your hypotheses, and making sure that what you're saying is of relevance and is important for your customers going forward as well. So whilst you are at the same time then getting stuck into your, I've built my value proposition, let's go sell, let's go deliver, never forget that there is a continued expectation of your customers and your users, your own staff, and even yourself as a business owner to continuously improve and to adapt. So you should, as a leader of an organization, continually and always make time to discuss the reshaping of your value proposition. I like the word reshaping. You know, when you sit in the big bad corporate world, which I did for far too long, and when it comes to financial year ends, everyone wants to do cost cutting and this cutting and that cutting. Sometimes you have to take the existing resources that you've got and reshape it into something new. So reshaping is actually also an art form. So you think about sculptures and stuff like that. So when you're having a look at this, when you're scaling, never ever forget that your success is true for today, but it might not be true for tomorrow. So be adaptable, be fluid, and make sure that your value proposition is a continually updated process and commitment that you have towards your customers. And then obviously what this is important around is evidence and validation, which is also quite important. Now, I say as tricky as it may be, because it is sometimes, always use data and case studies to validate your value proposition, all right? Now, what I mean by that is that blasé sort of comments around like stuff are cool and great. But if you have data, if you have use cases, case studies, then continually look at them. So number one, validate the value proposition that you're bringing. But number two, position yourself for being able to adapt and change your organization going forward as well. Because at the end of the day, evidence-based propositions can significantly increase credibility and customer trust. So if you say, I've reduced I've improved the efficiency of, let me give an example. Tupelo, I have increased the average daily gain on a cattle farm or a chicken farm because of the quality of the food. Sorry, I've said a blank, but my example is there. But it's all good and well saying it, but you can say in 2023, we provided 14 farms with 15,000 liters of this stuff. The average daily gain in the previous years was 43.4 grams. Now it's 47.8 grams, which is testimony to the fact that you can slaughter chickens 2 days earlier because they've reached their product weight, which has a 21% increase in your cost cutting, a 21% reduction in cost producing product to get to a abattoir. And the only way to do that is to actually get the data and build it out. And so that's why I say as tricky as maybe, go and get your data. When you're building your value proposition, you built it. When you're selling it. When you're servicing, but always measure. My boss, when I worked in the chicken industry, because I come from the chicken industry, said, if it's not measurable, it's not worth doing. And I thought that was a load of crap when I was 25 years old. Now that I'm more than double that age, he's right. If it's not measurable, it's not worth doing. So if you're doing it, you should be measuring it. If you can't measure it, don't do it. And that's where this element comes in. And so the evidence type of thing comes in and says you lock your customers in, but then there's a little Sherlock who's a detective, brings it in as well. And that's what you do. Bring the evidence, validate your value proposition, because that entices and builds up that way. And do not do what Dilbert does, because Dilbert is something like this as well. I didn't have accurate numbers, so I just made this one up. Studies have shown that accurate numbers aren't any more useful than ones you make up. How many studies show that? 87. It's like my other saying, you'll hear me say this, 74.4% of statistics are made up on the spot. So don't do that. Don't come up with blasé sort of numbers. Actually spend the time, ladies and gentlemen, building data, validating your business case, and getting evidence behind it as well. So knowing that, when you craft your value proposition, always keep in the back of your mind, if it's not measurable, it's not worth doing. So know that when you're building, be able to measure. And then finally, get this emotional connection right as well. Never underestimate the importance of building an emotional connection with your target audience. Now, I think what's the percentage of men on this call? Slightly higher, was it 50-50, whatever it is. Us oaks struggle with this, all right? Get it? It's just the way we are. And those who know me know that I'm very weird in this sort of space, but you have to build an emotional connection with them, because your brand story can enhance perceived value. Because at the end of the day, and this is also one of those facts that no one will teach you in a business school, perception is reality. So if you perceive to have rubbish products, rubbish services, then you do have rubbish products and rubbish services, because the perception is the reality. If you perceive to be a world leader in something, then the reality is you are a world leader in something. So unless you have the data to contradict that, or data to support that, the reality is create the perception through emotional connection and validated data and evidence to know that this is who you are, and that's what your value proposition is built out at the end of the day. I'm sure there's many of you who can say, well, how can people even think that about what we're doing? Well, that's because they've perceived to see it in that direction. So again, create emotional connection with your targeted audience, your customers, your users, and tell a story. Other thing I just want to just highlight before we get into sort of more theory behind this is, in today's market, customers value sustainability and ethical business practices. That's even more so and more true in our own country, isn't it? I mean, there aren't too many people that have, I don't know, a non-hesitant, fully endorsed view that our, let's say, government practices ethical government practices, or businesses are ethically driven. We say it, we believe in it, but does your value proposition publish that? Does your value proposition prove that, live it out? And so when you are crafting your VP, never ever forget that people actually are looking for it these days. People want to know what the sustainability impact is of your business. People understand that, since they're going to get healthier by riding their bicycles, and what is the city doing about building bigger bike lanes without building, congestion or whatever the story is. That's the type of stuff that we should always take into mind. And I just want to plant a little seed there, because at the end of the day, and again, the value that you're creating for your customer or your user has to be ticking these sort of boxes as well. And again, because it's a Dilbert cartoon, another example of what not to do. So our goal is to ship 1 million units this quarter. And Dilbert obviously is, do we have any goals that involve making our customers happy? And his boss says, I'm not talking about our goals, not their goals, totally different. And this again, it's a little snippet of humor, but how often do you actually see organizations making this real? I mean, they're more worried about their profitability. They're more worried about their shareholder value, their personal bonuses, their income statement, look and feel, et cetera, and they're forgetting the value of what you're actually trying to do. These little snippets of slides I've just shown you is trying to say to you, your value proposition is all about creating value for your customers and your users, because that's where the sustainability sits and rides. Your organizational value proposition should be aligned to what you're trying to do for your customers and users going forward as well. Okay, are there any questions so far? Again, I can't see anything, so if someone says something, just say something. If it doesn't make sense, then you can also keep quiet. If it does make sense, then yeah, say so. Just joking.
Just unmute.
Just
You
joking,
can
you
just
know.
unmute yourself and ask a question or make a comment if you like.
Okay.
Everyone's
No,
either fast asleep or utterly spellbound. I'm going to go with utterly spellbound, Paul.
Yeah, so
I'm going with fast asleep.
I thought, the value of the session so far. So I'm quite clear on everything.
Thank you, Wisani. Thank you.
Okay, now the question is
You're
how.
unmute, Sandile is unmuted. Do you have a question or a comment, Sandile?
I don't know if anyone can hear me. I'm not sure if I'm having problems. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. No, Paul, I think from my side is that, I mean, this is something that we currently, talking about internally. So I think the timing for this is perfect, because part of, where we're looking now at our value proposition. I mean, what we have is literally a bicycle, and there's nothing new about a bicycle, really.
Yeah.
It's a frame and a couple and the wheel and the chain and handlebars and brakes. What I'm getting, or what I'm sort of leaning towards, which is a conversation that we're having tomorrow, actually, because we're having a brainstorming session around this, to really redefine our value proposition. And I think where we're leaning towards, based on what I'm getting from you right now, where I'm leaning towards is that our product really is around, it's an opportunity. We are bringing something that is not new into the market, but that is different.
Yep.
And there's no one that is doing single speed bikes. Well, not that there isn't, but no one is focusing on that. But then once again is, how do we tell? I think one other thing that I might be jumping to topics here, but one thing that we're really struggling with right now is to tell that story. Even though we have loads of beautiful stories that we can tell, but we have no idea how to take Wisani's experience from yesterday and make that a heartfelt experience that many other people out there could want to experience and be able to communicate that. Because what we bring is not, it's a bike, but it's a heartwarming story, the freedom of being able to move and go wherever you want to go on a bicycle. That's totally something different. So yeah, thanks. This is, yeah, once again, as I said, we're having this conversation tomorrow, so it's perfect timing.
Well, I think Sandile, what you'll see a bit later as well is about that key messaging. I'm going to show you examples of organizations that are pretty damn good at it. Names that we all know, but what their recipe of success is, and you'll see it. Maybe will help you a little bit later. That we will see that there's like 9 or 8 or 10 examples that do the same thing and make an impact. So we'll touch on that just now. So hopefully it'll help you tomorrow.
Okay.
So the question here is how. So this is where there's different elements. So there's some theoretical things that I just want to touch base with and while we look at them, because again, there's no one size fits all. So here at Level Up, we like to share what we like to put everything on the table. We like to create opportunities and again create curiosity amongst yourselves to see what works and what doesn't work. And we'll share with you our favorites. And then what we also talk about is being able to work with you to go through this journey as well at the same time, because we've co-created these value propositions with a number of organizations and our own organizations as well. So that's also important. So there was a guy named Peter Thompson. He sort of was the first sort of person that brought a value proposition canvas to market, if I could put it that way. And he said it's a crunch point between business strategy and brand strategy. And that's one of the things I quite liked about that crunch point. You know, it has, I like words like crunch because it has like a sort of an emotional connectivity with your brain. And he took this sort of scenario and saying, well, how do I get a business strategy and a brand strategy, in other words, the customer story, and merge into two? And he came up with this value proposition canvas where he has on the left-hand side the product, so what are the benefits and the features of the product, and what is the experience around having that, using that product or buying that product. And then the customer who has wants, needs, and fears, which is interesting. And how do they get their brain to buy the product, and what's the experience that they go through? So that's a canvas. The second one is what the Harvard Business School came up with, and saying, while the value chain focuses eternally on operations and value propositions element of strategy that looks outward at customers, at the demand side of a business, strategy is fundamentally integrative, whatever that means, bringing the demand and supply sides together. So if we go back to basic economics, because it's a business school, obviously like economics, how does supply meet demand and how does demand meet supply? And they said, well, here's a little scenario. Who are your customers? What are their users? What are the end users? And what channels do they use? What are their needs? Which product features and service do they want? And what is the relative price? There the price comes in. So they've created this snapshot and what they think value proposition is as well. And then Steve Blank, who is, if you know who Steve Blank is, he's one of the sort of the renowned thinkers around startup economy in the world. He was one of the sort of the initial thinkers around the concept of lean startup, et cetera, that came to market. And if you ever want to go see some of his YouTube videos, stuff like that, he's a really good guy just to get back to basics on. And he was doing the stuff in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. So, you know, he's going way back, and he's transformed his own message to cater for today's day and age, which is great. He said a lot of startup founders emphasize features instead of benefits. So just think about that. It's a very good example. So my app has, I don't know, payment API. Well, what does that actually mean? What is the benefit of that? And if you go back to sort of the startup days and the .com days before you guys were born, the people were talking about features the whole time, but not benefits. Okay. And he said, well, you need to talk about benefits to build a succinct value proposition. So instead of going on and on about how sexy your thing is, talk to what the need is. And here's this very simple sentence, and it says, we help you climb a mountain by giving you water resistance hiking boots. We help people get to work. We help CBD workers get to work by giving them bicycles to ride. Something like that. Okay, bad examples. But that was a simple formula. So everything that you do, we help your customer do their need by doing our product and service. Okay, so again, it's a value proposition thinking. But we're a big fan of a product or a canvas or a process that helps you visualize, helps you design, helps you test, and helps you evolve your value proposition. And we unashamedly refer to the Strategyzer organization. So Strategyzer, okay, I can't say as a show of hands. Strategyzer is a company that is established in Europe. They have an integrated suite of tools to help build a comprehensive view of your business. The value proposition is the core of this business model thing which they have. and they created this Canvas tool to help you create value for your customers. So it all forms part of an overall strategy of what you've heard of the business model canvas, hopefully. And the value proposition canvas is within that business model canvas and creates the sort of the big excitement behind it. Now, the concept, let me just quickly I'll come back to this. There it is. So how many of you have done a business model canvas? Just say yes or no. Let's have, how many, just say yes if you've done a business model canvas without knowing what it is. Yes or no?
I've done it.
Okay. So Tapelo, you've done one. Okay, great. Yeah. Colin, have you done one?
Yes, I have.
Okay, perfect. Sandile, have you done one?
Yeah, I've done one, Paul. Thanks.
Yeah, I know you have because I did one with you once. Wasani, have you done one? Okay, he's probably busy. Leon, have you done one? Fireflies.ai note taker, have you done one? Yes, okay, cool. The principles of the value proposition, the business model canvas, is to say, you always start on the right-hand side of let me just do this quickly. I'm going to do like little pens here. Starting on the right-hand side of the business model canvas. And the question is, say, who are your customers? What value do you bring to them? How do you manage your relationships? How do you service them through various channels? And how do you make money? Okay. And that is the question of saying, let me just excuse the bad handwriting. Oh, my hat. This is very difficult to do. The question is, should you do this? So your business model canvas is then saying, should we do this? And the answer to that is, yes, we should, because we can make money, or we can solve problems, or we can whatever the story is. The second component of the business model canvas is say, okay, what does that mean? Well, I have a variety of different activities that I need to do with a limited amount of resources. So I need to find partners to help me fulfill those key activities at a certain cost. And once I know what that is, I have a whole business model on one page. Very simple, very powerful, impactful stuff. And so that's why we are all strong components of the business model canvas. And there's different versions of it, etc. But this is the original from Strategizer for all licensing fees, blah, 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 fish-based. In the business model canvas is the value proposition and customer segments components. And you can see these little diagrams, the square and the circle at the same time. So let me just try and get rid of the pen now. So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to play a video, but I need to stop sharing because I forgot to, sorry. I need to share sound. Sorry. Share. Okay, can you still see it now? No?
Yes, yes, we
Yeah, there's a
can.
bit. Okay, let me just press play and tell me if you can't hear it.
Every day, companies design products and services to improve their customers' lives. But 72% of new product and service innovations fail to deliver on expectations. This means that customers don't care about 7 out of 10 new products introduced to the market. It doesn't have to be this way. Just like you create value for your business with a business model canvas, there is in fact a tool to intentionally visualize, design, and test how you create value for customers. It's called the Value Proposition Canvas. The Value Proposition Canvas is composed of 2 parts, the customer profile and the value map. With the customer profile, you describe the jobs your customers try to get done. Jobs can be functional, like getting from A to B, social, like impressing friends and colleagues, or emotional, like gaining peace of mind. You highlight your customers' pains, which annoy customers while trying to get a job done. Pains are negative outcomes that customers hope to avoid, like dissatisfactions with existing solutions and challenges, frustrations, risks, or obstacles related to performing a job. And you outline customer gains, which describe how customers measure the success of a job well done. Gains are positive outcomes that customers hope to achieve, like concrete results, benefits, and even aspirations. Use the customer profile to visualize, test, and track your understanding of the people or companies you intend to create value for. It's a map that becomes clearer the more you learn about your customers. The second part of the canvas is the value map. With it, you list the products and services your value proposition builds on. You describe in which way these products, services and features are pain relievers, how they eliminate, reduce or minimize pains customers care about, making their life easier. And you outline in which way they are gain creators, how they produce, increase or maximize outcomes and benefits that your customers expect, desire or would be surprised by. The value map makes explicit how your products and services relieve pains and create gains. Use it to design, test and iterate your value proposition until you figure out what resonates with customers. You achieve fit by creating a clear connection between what matters to customers and how your products, services and features ease pains and create gains. Great value propositions target essential customer jobs, pains and gains and do so extremely well. Your customer profile may contain countless jobs, pains and gains, but your value map highlights which ones you intend to focus on. But don't forget, an outstanding value proposition can still fail if your business model is flawed. Successful companies embed outstanding value propositions in scalable and profitable business models. Use the value proposition canvas to create products and services that customers want. Get started.
Get started, it just stops.
That was
I think
very
it's-
sudden. Very sudden.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. I think it probably because it said get started at strategizer.com. I'll probably cut it off like that, but anyway, that's all good and well. It's a short little video, but it's a very powerful little video as well. And I think there are some things that I just want to just touch on just to highlight. I mean, the fact that she said 71% of businesses fail because they don't understand the customers, I think that is an underestimated statistic, to be honest. There are so many organizations that fail to even get going or get traction or get scale, but the others that sort of just like glide along. So it looks like it's okay, but they're just surviving and not thriving. And so I think when you look at that, I think there's a lot more sort of components around it. People underplay the importance of this canvas, and admittedly, I was one of them until Bev here challenged me a couple of years ago to say, do you think that we are underestimating the power of the value proposition? I said, no, we're not. But she was right. And so this is why we're having this conversation up front before business model canvassing or anything else in our cohort, because we fundamentally believe that this is the key success factor for today and for tomorrow, for companies that you're working on with now, but also any company that you may want to start in the future. And it's also a great tool to have in the back of your pocket to share with friends, family, communities, and like-minded organizations to help them be able to craft and build this out as well. So please don't think of this as a laborious, time-consuming exercise. Think of this as number one, value to you, and then ultimately a value proposition as well for your customers and users going forward. I think the most important thing is that we need to highlight here that this requires a little bit of homework from you. It's your companies that are participating in this, your companies that can, determine if you want to take it to the next level. And in order to do that, you have to do a bit of hard graft beyond just the traditional day-to-day of manufacturing, of building, of selling, etc. So I encourage you, everyone, to really absorb some of this, which we're going to rush through in the next half an hour. Take the time to read through it. You'll get a copy of this presentation afterwards as well. Reach out to us and help us, and let us help you go through this journey as well at the same time. And again, there might not be anything new here. There might be something that will tickle your curiosity. But the one thing that I would encourage you to do is to spend some hardcore time putting the time and effort into this. So Sandile, if you're doing it tomorrow with your team, have a whole bunch of fun and make sure that you come up with something beautiful at the end. So again, just talking about in terms of what we hear, we're talking about is really a deeper understanding around the customer profile. So on this side of the map, we're talking about an understanding of who you're trying to target. So the customer jobs, what we talk about there is a real component for understand what customers are trying to get done in their work and in their lives. And that's they want to buy something that does a job for them. Okay, they need to get to work. They need a bicycle. They need to employ someone. They go online to a organization to help them find talent. They need to have a better production from the agricultural yield. They go to someone to get the right manure. They need to have food delivered to their house. They get the guys to come deliver it to them. And that's the job that they want someone or something to do for them. And that's what you really have to determine what it is that you're trying to achieve. There's obviously the bottom point here is the pains. So what are the bad outcomes related to those jobs? So what are they trying to solve for? They want to eat. They want to get to work, to have a job. So these are the pain points that are the customers need resolution on. But then there's also gains. What don't they have at the moment? They could get a better yield, a better quality food delivered to them at a lower cost, etc., etc. And that's what they're going to gain from it. So where the customer at the moment is still achieving something, this could even promote that even further. And then obviously the value map sits on the other side, which is where your core business sits and lies in terms of, well, this is what we have from a product and services offering. This is what we do to relieve the pain that you may have. And this is what our product and service would help you create gains on the other side of it. So remember, I go back and talking about, I'm not just creating a solution to a problem, I'm also creating an opportunity. So this is the problem solver, the pain reliever, and this is the opportunity creator, the gain creator. So never forget about that. And when you've done this exercise, you should have a fit. You should be able to understand who your customer is, what are they trying to resolve, what are they looking for to get benefit from, and how can you service them from your value proposition that you give to them as well at the same time. This is where you achieve fit. When you do the canvas, which you'll touch on just now, I heard this philosophy of starting quantity over quality as a starting point. So when you start determining the customer profile, and we do post-its and whiteboarding, all this stuff, put far too much stuff on. And then when you come to the value map, target those specific gains and those specific pains. Remember in the video, she says your products and services will not meet all the pain points, will not meet all the gain needed, but target the ones that you feel that you should regard as a priority. And again, that's the value proposition. You might not be everything to everybody, but you will be everything for somebody. And so that's something where this fit is a very, very important exercise as part of the canvassing, creating this art, is making sure that you can, with confidence, satisfy or relieve a pain or create a gain on the back end of that. So understand your customer and design your value so that you can deliver it on the back end. I'm just conscious of time because I also want Q&As and things like that. So I'm going to run through this, but this is, again, what we've talked about in the video, what I've just mentioned now as well, in terms of you creating a profile on the
Sorry,
customer
I'm going
jobs.
to interrupt you before you completely run out of breath and we have a medical emergency. Everyone, after this call, I will send a link to a beautiful detailed description that Paul and I worked on to put onto our LMS. So I'll share a link and your password so that you can go on there and I'll explain in the email where exactly to find it. And that'll take you through the steps to help you a little bit from a practical perspective. Paul, I really don't want you to run out of breath.
I'm so super fit at the moment, Bev. I will never run out of
there you
breath.
go. Run out of breath.
Thanks, Bev. You actually reminded me I was supposed to say it at the end, and I wrote it on my notes, but I didn't put it into the presentation. But thanks for the reminder. So anyway, so customer jobs. So what are the jobs that the people need, or businesses need, or communities need? Because remember, a customer doesn't have to be an individual; it can be a collective, and that is just like a functional job. They want you to do a specific task. They want someone to help them log on safely to a banking app. They want to be able to get food delivered once ordering online. So that's a functional job. The other one is a social job, where there is a component around creating a boost of a person's sort of image. What did I write here? Yeah, when customers want you to look good or gain power or status. Okay, so that's when they want to be able to say, hey, I drive a Bentley and not a Volkswagen Polo. And so if you are selling Bentleys, how do you stroke that person's ego from a social job perspective to make sure that they buy your Bentley? And then also on the other side is the personal and emotional jobs. So that's when they're looking for something to understand a specific emotional state. So they want to feel comfortable in having good food. They want to feel fit because they ride their bicycles to work every day. And that's the specific emotional state that they are looking for from a job perspective for you to satisfy for them. Okay. So what's important is always take the context of their needs into consideration and the importance of their needs. into consideration as well. Then there's the pain points. So pains describe anything that annoys your customers before, during, and after trying to get a job done, or just simply prevents them from getting it done. And the pains can also describe risks, so potential bad outcomes, etc. And then there's the sort of the components of undesired outcomes, problems, and characteristics. So those are functional, social, emotional, ancillary. So in other words, people get cold. They don't have food. They have to complete a process by doing something online, then going into a branch of an organization, and going back online, and then going to a delivery point to pick it up, etc., etc. So those are the pain points that you could resolve through horizontal integration. And then the obstacles. So how do they get started, or how do they get to the next step? I need to have a certified copy of my ID to open a bank account. Oh, flip, how am I going to get that right? Who helps them get a certified copy of an ID to break the obstacle to get to the next point of the value proposition? And then obviously the risks. So what could go wrong, and what are the consequences of that going wrong from? So I want to send money to somebody through a cryptocurrency app. What could go wrong? Well, the money could never arrive. It could be stolen, etc., etc. How do you deal with that? How do you manage that? And what you're trying to do from a business model canvassing perspective, a value proposition canvassing perspective, is determining what the severity of that pain is and how can you prevent that. From a gains perspective, these are the benefits that your customers want. Some are required, so they want a gain. Some are expected, and some people are completely surprised about. People didn't know that they wanted a smartphone in the 2007s. They just wanted a phone. No one knew that we would have to have a phone that has apps on, that we could do everything on it. But it came. There was an unexpected gain. And so there are the required gains. So your product or service has to be provided so that it can work. So it's an important essence of it. You can't ride to work if you don't have a bicycle, as an example. Okay. The expected gains. So if I have a bicycle, I should be able to get to work. That's an expectation. Then there's the desired gains. So those are going for something beyond which they would want. So it goes from a nice to have to I love this, I can't live without it. And then the unexpected gains. So that was completely left field, had no idea that was coming, but here it is. So those are the customer gains. Then from the products and services, basically, what do you offer? What is in your suite of goods? Do you have physical or tangible goods? Do you have intangible stuff like services, call center agents, whatever the story is? Is it digital? Is it financial? Or is it physical? Oopsie, sorry. And that's really just a snapshot of what you provide. And this is also quite good to actually get back into a sense and sensibility component of saying, well, I actually think I do this, but do I actually do it? And when you do this canvassing, ladies and gentlemen, don't blasé casually pass over this core component of the value map. This is also just a repositioning understanding of what you're doing is the right thing that you should be doing. From a pain relievers, so what you're saying here is that let me just scroll through it quickly. What we're saying here is that it's important that you understand what those pain points are, and then how can you put the plaster on? How can you stop the bleeding? And again, I just want to say that the great value proposition focus on pains that matter to customers, in particular extreme pains, but you don't need to come up with a pain relief for every pain. So this is something that I just want to also re-emphasize, and this is where the true value of a value proposition is that you're determining the importance and severity of pains which need to be resolved for, and how can you satisfy them, and then go out and deliver that. Go out and say, I can help you with 2 out of the 10 that you have, but those 2 are going to be beautifully solved by what we have here at the same time. So never forget what that component is, how important that is. And then from a gain creator's perspective, this is about focusing on the things which customers really want and that they think that they need, and then outline how you intend to produce those. Okay, so the customer's expecting a gain. They're expecting it. They're wanting it. And you're going to say to them in your value proposition, well, we're going to give you that through the following process. And that will appeal to you practically, socially, emotionally, financially, that type of stuff as well. So again, when you build out the narrative of the value proposition, always take into consideration that when you're building a pain point narrative, appeal to the pain. relief, fuels the pain relief. When you're building a narrative for gain, talk about where the creative process is around it to get to that gain point as well. So again, the usage of the language in building your narrative is very, very important. What we say is that you achieve this fit between the customer profile and the value map when the customers get excited, thrilling with like overjoy, excited about your value proposition. Because you will, number one, address the important jobs which they need. You alleviate the extreme pain points which they got, not all extreme. You create the essential gains to make sure that the value is seen on all the things that your customers or users care about. So you address the important jobs, you alleviate the extreme pains, you create the essential gains that customers care about. When we get to the next part of the canvassing part, which is beyond just this conversation, this is what the canvas you get. There is a downloadable link on this one, but obviously, like Bev says, there's the component of the LMS which we can start creating and building out. But this is a nice thing to print out on a big A3 piece of paper, or if you don't have that on your iPad or on your phone or whatever the story is. But it's a continual reminder of what these different components are. So there's questions, customer jobs. What do you put in the customer jobs? What functional jobs are helping the customer get done? What social jobs are helping get the customer done? What emotional jobs, etc. Pain points. What does your customer find too costly? What makes your customer feel bad? What are the current solutions underperforming for your customer? What are the main difficulties and challenges for your customer encounters? What this is doing is it's giving you very, very good prompting questions for you to continue to answer. If you can answer any one of these questions on the customer profile app, the crafting of your value proposition from the value map becomes seamless and easy because you understand the customer and what their pain points are, and what the opportunities are to create new things as well. I think that's fundamentally important, and we'll go into it more detail in the next few weeks. And here, like I just said, when it comes to the end of the day, when you start experimenting, walking around, Einstein discovers that time is actually money. And you can see the dollar sign there. But what I'm trying to say to you now is that if I go back to this canvas, it's a lot of questions, a lot of work. It will take time from you and your teams to do it properly and continually. Because at the end of the day, the time invested in this will make you money. So I want to go through this one. So this is for Sindile, for you, for your we're talking about the messaging. I want to just very quickly, for the next 5 minutes, talk about this, and we have 10 minutes for Q&A, and talking about the messaging of your value proposition. So you need to create a message which is aimed at your customer. You're talking about the problem or opportunity, and then you're talking about the solution. Remember what we talked about when we pitched together? What did Bev say to both of you guys who pitched? What's the benefit? That was the question. So the solution, in fact, the benefit is important. So what you want to do from a structure, a canvas perspective about communicating value proposition is have a headline, and I'll show you examples now. Then have a paragraph offering a little bit more detail. Use it for what's the benefit. Then a bullet point of list of benefits and powerful imagery. So you think, okay, well, that sounds fun, but what does it actually mean? So let's look at examples. This is Stripe, financial infrastructure for the internet. Headline. Paragraph. Millions of companies of all sizes use Stripe online and in person to accept payments, send payouts, automate financial processes, ultimately grow revenue. Who is it for? It's for millions of companies. What's the benefit? To create a Stripe online and help them accept payments, send payouts, automate financial processes, and ultimately grow revenue, ticking a whole bunch of financial boxes. And then what is the imagery? Well, the imagery is this little sexy thing. Okay, it's the phone. It's what people like. It's colorful. It's bold. It's bright. And there's a call to action. Start now, contact sales. That is the value proposition for Stripe. They are the financial infrastructure for the internet. They help companies manage their finances. Shopify. Okay, let's go back to this again. What's the story? The headline, making commerce better for everyone. The paragraph of who's it for and what's the benefit? Shopify supporting the next generation of entrepreneurs, the world's biggest brands, and everyone in between. What's missing? The benefit. So let's press on the play button here. So if you press play, the powerful imagery becomes video. And they've got a call to action. Start your free trial, watch the Shopify story, etc. So this is cool, but they're missing what the benefit is. Why would you want a e-commerce site? Or I'd ask. Spotify. You all know Spotify. Eh? So again, let's go back. So what's the headline? Listening without limits. The paragraph of who's it for, the benefit. Premium sounds amazing. Enjoy ad-free music listening on all your devices. So what are we trying to do here? Their value proposition is saying, so apply for Spotify Premium, because now you won't have any ads, your music becomes uninterrupted, etc., etc. So that's the value prop. We have a product, we have a premium product, which you should now pay for because you can get started and view plans. And it sounds better, so the quality is cool, and the music listing is great. It's a value proposition. Then there's Apple. This was last year. They said iOS 17, every day more extraordinary. So that's the headline. What does it mean? iOS 17 brings new features to enhance the things you can do every day. Express yourself like never before when you call or message someone. Share content in convenient new ways and do more with new experiences for your iPhone. So they're saying it's all new, it's all extraordinary. That's their value prop. They released their iOS 18 this week. And it says, yours truly. Customize your iPhone in more ways than ever. Stay connected with friends and family and relive your favorite moments. And with Apple Intelligence, the things you do every day become even more magical. So what they're doing is they're appealing to the emotional side of things, but also building a trust factor by saying it's your data and it won't be compromised. Then there's Glide. Glide is a software tool that you can take a Google Sheets document or Excel document and create an app from it. So what is the headline? Create business software you actually want. So it's appealing to a pain point, isn't it? I want software that works. Well, here it is. It's AI-powered no-code apps. And the paragraph is, so this the benefits and who's it for. Glide makes it easy to build custom business software powered by your data and loved by your team without code. It's a value proposition, the complexity behind the delivery of that. But what they're doing is they're saying, well, you need business, you have data, you need software to run that data, you got information. How do you do it without, because I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder, how do I make it? Well, here it is. I'm creating business software you actually want and use. Then there's Strategizer, who's the company we're talking about. Their headline is master the practice of innovation. Okay. Every business, so who they're talking to, every business wants to secure future growth while successfully managing the present. We guide and help you master the way to do this autonomously and at scale. So what they're doing, they're saying, we understand that you need to grow, but we understand that you have a day-to-day business and there's time constraints. So what are we doing is we provide you with the tools, tricks, trades, and experiences in order for you to get both done and both done effectively. So again, that's the message that you're trying to cascade here. And then locally, the headline, introducing South Africa's fastest delivery service. And the paragraphs, shop in 60 seconds, deliver in 60 minutes, at low prices with a service guarantee. That's a value proposition. Now, the products and services that Checkers have to build in order to deliver that is complex. But what are they doing? They've said, well, customers want their groceries delivered to their door. And they want to do it in a way which is fast, effective, and at low cost. And they want to be able to not leave home and get discounted prices through the extra savings card. And that's the value proposition that they deliver. Now, then you need the rest of the business model canvas to actually create the key activities, the resource requirements, and the key partnerships and what costs will be. But that's the value proposition message cascaded on one little single snapshot. So what I'm saying to you, and I've got 10 minutes for Q&A, is that it's important that you add some vibrance and color to your value proposition so that at the end of the day, you create art that builds out on the back end of this. And so this is just, like I said, a brief introduction to, we believe, as the most important piece of work that you can do as an individual, as a business owner, and as a team collectively to really craft, sharpen, clarify, and build out your value proposition. And we hope that you enjoy doing it and that going forward, it's going to be a whole bunch of fun as you go around doing it at the same time. Okay, questions?